Okay, so we're going to step through how to build a plated assembly and save it as an STL that you can send a group of parts to a printer, load a group of parts to a printer with a single STL file. So the first thing I'm going to do is start an assembly. I'm going to pick apart one of my parts that I'm going to assemble to my assembly as my first part. I'm just going to drop it in the window. And then I'm going to turn on the front plane. I'm going to right click and show. It still doesn't show because all planes aren't turned on. So I'm going to come up to the eyeball at the top and I'm going to left click and say view planes. And now my front plane shows. So now I'm going to go insert all my components that I want. So I'll take this chair, this footstool, and these two tables. I'm going to control select each of those. I'm going to say open. I'm going to do a little bit of manipulation to get them oriented with the plane the way I want. And then we're going to arrange them here in a minute. So the idea is the plane is the plane of the printer. So that's the plane that's the print bed, if you will. So all my parts are floating in space. So I can't print them like that right now. Nothing would line up well with the bed. So I'm going to need to go back and mate them to the plane that I'm looking at. The very first thing I'm going to do is go to the first part that I dropped. You'll notice there's a little F there, which means that it's fixed in space. I'm going to right click that and I'm going to say float. That allows me now to mate it to the plane. You'll see there are dashes in front of all the parts now because none of them are completely assembled or constrained. Okay, so I'm going to go mate. I'm going to pick my plane. I'm going to rotate. I'm going to pick the surface that I want sitting on the bed. Okay, so now that the surface of my couch is sitting on the bed like that. Check out of that. I'm going to do the same thing with every one of my parts. Doesn't matter which order you pick them in. So those parts are going to print like that. My table, if you'll notice, will print nicely upside down because everything's supported from underneath. There's no overhangs or bridges that way. So that's a convenient way to print that. So we'll go through and do the same thing. We'll pick the tabletop, the plane, and that'll work there. In this case, this one's overlapping, which you don't want, so I'm going to just grab it and move it where I want it. And then pick that surface in my plane, so that'll drop on the bed. Again, that's not, we don't want it overlapping another part. Pick this surface in my plane. That looks good. So, yeah, that all looks pretty good. Probably tuck that in there. Probably tuck that there. This up here. And the more densely I pack my parts, the faster they'll print. So that looks pretty good. You need a little bit of space between them, but that looks good. As a plated assembly, that looks good. So I'm going to check on my mates, and that's my plated assembly there. So I'm going to save it. Rebuild and save is fine. I'm going to put my last name in the file, Taylor. I'm just going to call it plated 1. Save. And then to save my STL, I'm going to do a save as. I'm going to go down and pick STL. This is the key here. I'm going to pick options. And under options, there's a checkbox that says save all components of an assembly in a single file. I'm going to check that, which means all of my parts are going to show up in the same STL file, which is what I want. I want to be able to take one single file to my printer, drop it on the printer, and all of my parts will be located on my printer and ready to print. So make sure that's checked. I'm going to say OK, accept all the other defaults, and I'm going to it defaults to the same base file name as my assembly file, .stl. I'm going to do save. It's going to show me what my STL looks like. All my parts are together in this file, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to say yes. And now I've got a plated assembly. So I have SLD ASM file and the STL file that are the same. I'm going to close this and let's go open the STL file and just see what that looks like. So Taylor plated -1.stl. Pick that guy, we'll open it, and all my parts are there. So that's what we're going to pull into our slicer, and it looks good. So I don't want to save this because I opened it as an STL and it's trying to convert it from that to a Solidworks part. I don't want to do that. So that's how we do that.